Well, here we are, the morning of the big hike. Actually, it's about 8:30 in the morning, but the sun doesn't come down into this valley very early, and you can see the tips of the mountains are just getting a little sunlight, but it's daylight enough so that I've had my breakfast at the hotel. Started off on my journey across this big creek, which is part of the Graubunden River. I begin to get to the outskirts of town. The sun's going to be up over those mountains in a little bit, and that's going to be a challenge for I can live there looking into the sun. In fact, it won't be much of a challenge at all. It just won't work well. All these little houses have holiday apartments in them. I'm sure they're popular in the winter. The town industry consists primarily of sawmills. And here's a great big one that supports the locals when the snow is on the road. And there's Royal Creek. Here is a picture of two bridges. The far bridge is not something I wanted to walk across. Unfortunately, I looked to my left and I saw a very nice bridge here. Turns out both these bridges are going in the wrong direction. This one is the one I got about a third of the way out and decided I just wasn't brave enough to try to do it and fall into the creek. So I turned around and went back. The real way I'm looking for is up there just above that white fence along that little ridge. And it took me a few minutes to find it. I'll have to try to remember that next time. I did make it up there, and lo and behold, I found the road has candles in the middle of it. There's one there, and then the first one, and then there was a third one. That one is a grave light, so I don't know what that means. I met a young girl running along here, and I asked her, and she didn't have any idea either. Looking back, you can see the village. That's the shooting house right in the foreground. And up above there is a little separate community that's served by a road. Here, just the Alps are beginning to involute for the winter. The path's not bad. This is probably the roughest looking portion of it, and you can see the bird bag notice there on that pole. But I kept trudging along here, looking to see what I could find, and listening to the water. Up there is where the train begins to come down from Prater into Bear Green. And I found that there was a helicopter heading over. You can see part of the train. This helicopter had a film crew in it. They were trying to make pictures, so when I saw the helicopters, I usually knew there was a train coming. This is a youth campground. And of course they're crazy about American Indian lore, and because of that They have teepees all around for the kids to camp out in. I think the counselors stay in a better looking house. This is a reservoir holding water so that it can be used for power production. And I guess when they drain that is when the water builds up in those creeks. Across that way is where the train begins its descent. These things are all along the path. They're tablets that explain, all in German, what's to do and what's taken place here in the history. This particular one is on tunnels and the rail line, which gives you the statistics and particulars of how long, how steep, whatever. These things are maintained by the leadership line so that they do have a vested interest in this pathway and take good care of it. There's a lot of information on these things. Here comes a train that's interesting. This is the Glacier Express. And then back toward the end you see all the red cars. That's just the local train. At certain times of the schedule during the day, there are trains that are combined, Glacier Express and local trains. The Glacier Express is really nice now. I cannot see why anybody would buy a first class ticket. The cars are all beautiful and have expansive windows. This is to deal with the rolling stock of the railroad, different types of rail cars. And of course always the signs. I'm headed in the direction of trading, so didn't want to get lost. This is going across an Alp. You can see if they don't put a pole up that painted on a tree, and there's the birthplace. Here you're looking at a big avalanche slope that's been there for years and is evidently a preferred way for the avalanches to come down each winter. That means there's either going to be a gallery or a tunnel for the rail line and the road so that the avalanches don't disrupt the transport. Up here in this little bare spot is part of the rail line. Unfortunately, I did not see a train come by here, but this is using a telephoto, so it's quite a ways up the mountain. A lot of this is going to be anticipation of trains, sometimes rewarding and sometimes disappointing. This is part of the highway, which is a two-lane road. It's not the nicest two-lane road I've ever saw, but it is serviceable, at least in the summer. It's going to be far. In the winter it's closed, and that's where the sleds all run from Cleveland down to Berkeley. Something like 7 kilometers, which is almost heavy. There's a gallery. And another informational tablet telling you about avalanches and home falls, and how hard they had to work to prevent these things from disrupting the line way back before 1900. This is a way they supported this bridge, which you can see was built in 206. I don't know if that Raidiship bomb boys did that, But it's a nice bridge, and you appreciate these things when you come to some of these points in the trail. This is a interstate highway type bridge. The path is never really bad. I wouldn't want to do it. Usual descriptions based on their there's more the rail line and a little bit of the weather. Valleys are huge. Sound carries differently. You can think you hear a train coming and yet it's still 15 minutes away. I looked up and saw a half moon, and this was about 10 o'clock in the morning. So I decided to check it out. I was standing right by a creek, actually a mountain spring, and water just drips out of the mountains all over. Here's a chain to hold on to while you walk, but then they later built a nice fence. But the chain is now not used much. It got pretty bright there because I was trying to turn toward the southeast. This was a big, impressive ride. Notice there's down at the lake. It's a big lake. That road, and there's a long road to the other side. This explains about tunnels and how you gain height with spirals. There's a lot of this in here since this is all without power for the trains to pull themselves up. It has to be a slow gradient, slowly rising. That's the way they do it. Spiral tunnels. This is the roof of the tunnel, and the line goes right underneath where I'm standing. And again, I was hoping for a train, but none showed up. But I did see one coming this way later on from a different aspect. And then I began to run into little tiny patches of snow. It has snowed up here, but only in very shaded spots would you see any. Although later there will be some more. This is about the time I begin to wonder about bears. I don't know why, except I had read that Graubunden is one of the cantons where the bear has been sighted in the last year or two. These viaducts are put together local stone and no mortar. between the stones are seated so these expansion. It's also impressive stone before 1900. Here's an out where I found a bench, sat down, and I had a Coke with me, so I was thirsty and I started to drink a little Coke. There were cows grazing fairly far off. But then they got curious, and I had to shoo them off. They seemed very interested in, maybe they could smell something in my pack. But I was waiting for trains here. And I waited. And I waited some more. All the time I could hear in the background some trains. And this cow is the one that was the instigator of the expedition to try to see what I had in my pack. Since the trains only pass at the stations, there's no place along the line between Prada and Berggruen for any passing to be done by them. And when you see one going one way, you know it's at least going to be 17 minutes before you see one coming the other way. And by the schedule and the watch, you can know when trains are approximately going to show up. It wasn't too unpleasant just to sit there and watch the cold. Know that the cows had warmed up and listen to the rushing water in the river and way down. Listen carefully in the background, you will hear the sound of the train. This is one of those architecture is fantastic. Not much to this architecture, but it was a landmark. It's a little snack shop or something. It wasn't open today. They let me know I was about 2/3 of the way through.